Okay, so we're going to be going over a mixed review of different kinds of factoring depending on the expression. So if I look at this expression right here, you'll notice that it's a trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we go. Now, the first thing you have to check for always is a GCF. Now, is there a GCF? Let's take a look. 2, -5, and 12. Do they have anything in common that's bigger than a 1? Well, I don't see anything that's bigger than a 1. How about x squared? So we have x squared, x, and then nothing. So I do not see a GCF. So since there is no GCF, what we need to do is factor it using grouping because see right here, this number is greater than 1, so we need to use grouping. Okay, so the first thing we do for grouping is we take the first number and the last number and we multiply them. So we have 2 times, now be careful, that's a negative. So 2 times -12. And 2 times -12 is -24. Okay, so I have a product of -24. Now, what is my sum? My sum is the number in the middle, and that's a -5. So I have a sum of -5 and a product of -24. So now I'm going to pick and choose a few numbers and see which ones give me the product and sum that I want. So the first thing that comes to my mind for 24 is 6 times -4 or -6 times +4. Now let's see if that gives me the right sum. If I add them together, here I get +2 and here I get -2. So that's no good. Let's move on to a different pair. Another pair for -24 is 3 times -8 or -3 times +8. If I add those together, I get -5 and +5. Now notice I have found my sum, -5, so that matches, which means that I have found the pair of numbers that I need, and they are +3 and -8. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to break up -5x into +3x and -8x because I have a +3 and a -8. That's where I get the 3 and the -8. Next, I'm going to drop the 2x squared and the -12. I'm going to drop them down. So I have 2x squared and -12. All I did was copy them down again. Then what we're going to do is break these up into groups of 2. So I'm going to take the first group of 2 and the second group of 2, and I'm going to look for a GCF. All right, what's my GCF in this first box? Well, if I take a look at the 2 and the 3, the GCF is 1. If I take a look at x squared and x, the GCF is x. So if I take an x out, how do I get 2x squared? Well, I need a 2. That'll give me 2x. To get 2x squared, I need an x. So 2x would be what I need. Plus, how do I get a 3x? Well, I already have an x, and here I need a 3. Now, since my term right here is negative, I put a minus here, okay? Don't forget that minus. Now, what is the greatest common factor of 8 and 12? The greatest common factor is a 4. So I'm going to open parentheses. How do I get a -8x? Well, I have a -4. -4 times 2 is -8, and I also need an x. Then how do I get a -12? Now be careful, we already have a negative here, so I would need a +5. 3. Now, again, if you aren't sure, these two binomials should match. If they match, you know you're doing it correctly. All right, now I'm going to take a look at my greatest common factor. Here again, you'll see that this binomial repeats. So I'm going to take it out. 2x plus 3, put it in parentheses. Now, what's left over? I'm going to take that out, and what's left over is an x and a minus 4. So in the other parentheses, I have x minus 4, and that's factored.